We're live.
It says we're live.
We're back.
Wow.
We're back.
We're back. Good morning, everyone.
Morning on a Focus Friday with our first ever special guest.
Honored. I
This is
don't deserve it. I'm honored.
oh no no no.
You
This is gonna be
you
great.
absolutely deserve it, man.
Yes.
No being humble here. I'll let you do the intros, but once again, good morning, everyone. So happy to be back on
Yes.
Focus Friday. We've got
Yes.
some things to discuss, some important, current events happening in our community, and
How the local connects to the global.
let's get into it. But how you feeling this morning?
I mean, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. We have a new streaming service, which is exciting.
Okay.
So this should be live on both YouTube and Facebook. Y'all will let us know whether or not that's actually happening.
All right.
That'll be, interesting to find out if it's working. But yeah, I've got all the energy because Mom Jamal's with us, and love for you to introduce yourself to everybody, who you are, how you represent Schenectady.
Absolutely. My name is Jamal Shah. I'm the Imam of the Schenectady Islamic Center. I've been there for about 10 years. And I've worked with Jamaica in the past on, civil rights issues, human rights issues within the city of Schenectady. And we're back at it again because that fight has not stopped.
It has not stopped. It has not. Really glad that you were able to join us this morning.
Thank you for
I,
having me.
I don't think there's a better fitting first guest given where we are in the political
There's
world.
a lot of pressure. You keep saying that. A lot of pressure.
It's
I'm
not.
joking.
It's not. Listen, we are the most laid back, chillest folks you're gonna find, especially on live.
No, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but you good this morning, Sean?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing okay. I'm actually grateful to have our first guest on, and we're gonna do more of these, interviews, house things, and like make sure that the community is kind of, tapped into what's going on in current events. And speaking of which, in current events, we just had a city council meeting
Yeah.
early this
Yep.
week. It was jam packed. It was
Fire marshal showed up.
Fire marshal showed up twice, right?
There
Fire
were
marshal showed up twice.
multiple fire
Yeah,
marshals. One stayed in the room.
yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
wild.
Very, very intriguing day. I couldn't even get in until much later in the day. But Jamaica, do you want to tell them what was happening?
I don't want to tell them what is happening. I want Imam Jamal to tell us why we were there, right? Because you actually handed in the petitions.
We did, and really just trying to get the city council of Schenectady to implement a ceasefire resolution against the genocide that's happening in Gaza and Palestine as a whole. This kind of movement, this sort of effort has been initiated in cities like Oakland, Chicago, Albany, Hudson, all across the United States of America. And this grassroots movement is really what helps to increase the pressure on the president and his team to do the right thing instead of just keeping with the status quo.
Yeah, that was literally it. So there were 908 signatures.
That's that was like 9 days of work.
It
So that's
was.
100 people a day.
Yeah.
If we,
Yes.
and honestly, I didn't even want to cut it off, but we had that meeting, so we had to hand something in. But as we keep it going, we're going to see those numbers start to skyrocket because people have they can't sit right with oppression, especially when it's live streamed every day and there's hundreds of people killed every day unjustly.
Yeah, and the online link is still open for
Sign up
folks.
if you haven't,
If you haven't signed the online petition,
and like and subscribe this.
yes, subscribe, like and subscribe. But it is ceasefire Schenectady, capital C, capital F, capital S, because those bit.lys are really sensitive. Which of course we'll also drop it in the chat so folks are able to click the link and sign. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but I believe it was definitely over 500 signatures that were from the city of Schenectady alone.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 600 signatures, given that there was the online petition, but there are also hard copies that you all collected
Old
in
school, door to
person,
door, yeah.
right? Right? Can you talk a little bit about that experience and like what folks were thinking, or any comments that you heard?
Quite honestly, I make an announcement at our mosque on a Friday, that's when we have our congregational prayers, similar to, Sundays at Christian churches, Saturdays at Jewish synagogues, where, you have that kind of weekly service. And, it took me all of 5 minutes to say what I needed to say. And it took the congregation all of 2 minutes to go up and sign up, to that ceasefire petition. And, you know, my community, our communities, communities all across the United States and around the world, whether they happen to be Muslim, Jewish, Christian, atheist, doesn't matter. As soon as they see something about a ceasefire petition in support of a ceasefire against the oppression that's happening to the Palestinians, against the genocide, they're eagerly signing up. Whatever we can do, whatever any human being can do, they're willing to do. And that's a beautiful thing about this struggle, especially now as I sit here, seeing what Israel's done since Monday.
Yeah.
Is generally what happens with them. They feel the international pressure increase, so they act even more belligerent. They act out against it. So we have to keep doing what we're doing, make sure that.
And for folks that don't know, while there was a city council here on Monday, the international community actually stood up. There was a resolution passed, 14-0,
which is
calling
legally binding, but the United States rep said non-binding.
Right. So the United States rep was the only in the UN Security Council. The U.S. abstained from the vote. Everyone else voted for the ceasefire. Then there was also Anatomy of a Genocide, a special report that came out that said Israel has committed at least 3 acts of genocide. At least 3 acts of genocide. A report that holds a lot of weight, or at least it should, which is what we were talking about, right? And Shawn, you were at City Hall. Seen the crowded room, saw the folks that were speaking in support of the ceasefire. What was the feeling like there?
I mean, it was, there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of, I think, and I said this when I actually got a chance to speak, that I felt like there was a lot of pain in the room from so many people that got up and spoke. And that's including members from the Jewish community who were against a ceasefire. I feel, however, what was, I think, most disturbing, or as disturbing as anything else, was this feeling that if we say something, right, about what is happening in Gaza, about the genocide, about the massive amount of people that have emerged, children, right, babies being killed, that if we say something, we're somehow wrong.
Yeah.
If we say something, then somehow we're against someone else and we're calling for a ceasefire. And I think that feeling in that room is also a feeling that's in the community, right? Like people are seeing something that's wrong, but feeling like they can't say something about it, or they'll be hurting someone else, right? And that has been the propagandistic, I think, positioning of not just the Israelis, the state of Israel, but many of the supporters that we see across this country and beyond, where this rhetoric around what is for or against an entire culture and a community, right, is used to kind of the blanket or allow all kinds of discretion when it comes to breaking international laws, when it comes to, and we can call it genocide, we can call it mass murder, we can call it whatever you want to. This is what I was saying, like we're getting caught up in semantics. And I understand that there's some legally binding things that come along with the words, but like you're asking me to see this and not feel something and not want it to stop. And I think that to me is as disturbing as anything else that I've seen. Because if we are not allowed to say anything, if we're not allowed to have dialogue, like how much this is happening there, what else is going to happen? What's next?
The Sudan, Haiti, right? Because internationally, and this conversation is being had, that the fact that it's being allowed and supported by the U.S. in Palestine,
enabled.
Enabled. Because I think I saw a figure that at least 70% of the arms that Israel has came from the United States.
Sent $500 million after that Security Council resolution was passed, part of that bipartisan Senate deal or whatever. But the thing is, United States of America, the government, not the people. And
Yeah.
this is where there's the kind of like a dichotomy where the people want one thing. The overwhelming majority of the United States citizens since November have wanted a ceasefire in place. 66% is no small number. That's a majority, overwhelming majority. You talk to any president that runs for election, they have 66%. They're not going to complain.
Yeah.
But the elected officials are beholden to, I guess, not the American people, which is, I guess, contrary to the Constitution, right? They're beholden to political powers at, that are
APEC.
APAC,
Yeah.
Zionist lobby, and there are actually multiple lobbies, right?
Yeah,
And they use different names and they snake their way in. You look at an organization like the ADL, who's there, technically the name is Anti-Defamation League. You folks are African American, I'm Muslim. When we're in trouble, are they there for us?
No.
Not at all. But when we say something against the state of Israel, us being, the quote unquote marginalized communities, right? They want to step out and say that we're anti-Semitic because we happen to be criticizing the policy of a state.
Yeah.
To me, that's the biggest fallacy. And Monday night, a lot of those folks were talking about how they try to conflate this, that criticism of Israel equals anti-Semitism. And I refuse to believe that. I'm Muslim. The United Arab Emirates is a Muslim country. United Arab Emirates is single-handedly causing the issues in Sudan by playing within their politics and enabling them with weapons. I criticize that. Does that mean I hate myself? Absolutely not. That's how asinine the logic is.
Yeah.
But these guys, and this has been 100 plus years of this sort of like rhetoric and propaganda that they throw out there. And what it does is, I don't know if people are just dumb or if they're programmed or if they're morally bankrupt. But some of those folks we heard from Monday night, Shawn said, we heard pain in their voices. I'm going to be honest with you. For me, I look at that and I call them crocodile tears because one woman, as we left, I heard her say, I've had enough PTSD and trauma for one day. And she went up there and she spoke about how she's been traumatized since 1970, whatever. I look at these Palestinian kids today, parents dead. One kid, today I heard a report. There was an aid worker who saw a young boy. He was maybe about 9, 10 years old, and he had a backpack. The backpack was dripping blood. So the aid worker goes in, says, what's going on? He goes, I have my brother with me. Oh. So he got his 5-year-old brother stuffed into a backpack because he wants to bury him. You talking about trauma, you're enabling trauma, you're enacting trauma upon a whole new generation of human beings. What does that say about you as a human being? What did you learn from your trauma? I know me. I experienced something negative. I don't want anyone else within my grasp, as much as I can, within my power, to experience even remotely close to that. My kids, your kids, doesn't matter who they are. I just don't want them to feel that. But here you have this kind of double standard where I'm a 60-year-old white woman, Zionist, whatever, and I feel the way I feel. And I don't care if these Palestinian kids are dead or dying or being killed by Israeli forces, so long as it helps to shield me from my quote unquote trauma. I don't think that's trauma. I think that's just self-serving, whatever. It's actually supremacist and racist, to be honest with you.
And we've got this history, right, of who's allowed to be the victim, right? We know what white tears do. We fully understand. I think it's also fair to say that, to your right, what you said, she has some trauma. Instead of considering, wow, if this is what it feels like for me to remember the stories from my family, to know historically that Jewish folks were marginalized, that they were pushed out of Europe because they were not wanted there.
Where'd they go?
Right? They were given a land
to the Muslim countries. They came to the Muslim countries.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah.
That to be able to sit with that and think, okay, this isn't just about my pain. Someone else is hurting. And if I identify with a government that causes a pain that hurt me, then how do I rectify that? And we've talked about this before, the difficulty of challenging one's own beliefs, especially when they are so deeply rooted.
I just want to listen, we've had these discussions like a lot. We've had a lot of discussions, and I've talked to some folks that feel differently than we do right now, and they are fully enveloped, right, in
It's
this kind of like I don't even know how to really describe it. I should do more work on how to describe like what I'm seeing because I don't think that for some of the people that I talk to, that is that they're
it's not clicking, is it?
yeah. It's like and I'm sitting there and this is the this difficulty I had kind of articulating it at the city council meeting because I'm just like some of the people that were there we spoke with, right, and we had conversations with, and there's friends that we've had that have like that have we don't have anymore because they're like no, this
Yeah.
is you don't understand, and it's like you're the like we don't understand, but like
Yep.
most of the international community and most of the people are watching this every day. We've got updates happening on the hour about the number of people that are being killed, the number of children that are being orphaned, the number of people that are losing limbs, number of people that are starving, you know, dying from children dying from malnutrition. And like we don't understand. And like I'm like, what is it
Yeah.
going to take, right, in order for there to be, you know, justice for the people in in dire need right now, right? What is it going to take? These conversations are great. We're pushing, I think, you know, this into our community more, making people aware of it. People were so interested in like we shouldn't be talking about this,
Right.
right? We shouldn't have this conversation. This is an international issue. Could you speak to that, Imam Jamal? Like
He's
this being an international
So
issue
and
and
not
like
for us to
how
worry
this
about in
conversation is being
Schenectady.
nah,
suffered.
see now
Not for
there's
Schenectady.
something important here, right? And when those people tell you don't worry about this, you don't understand this, you know, it's kind of like, you know, trying to tell you to take your brain out of your head and leave
Yeah.
it on the side,
Mm.
right? You see what you're seeing, but you're not seeing it. You know, it's like a magician. You know, I will tell you this, Sean. You're an African American man living in America 2024. You've been through George Floyd. You've been through so many, you know, Trayvon Martin. You've seen it all, right? You probably have some of your own experiences that can relate to those, right? An oppressed person's experience is similar to another oppressed person's experience,
Mm.
right? Maybe to differing degrees. Some people are getting bombed, other people are getting harassed by the cops. But in the end of the day, the feeling that comes with being oppressed, you share that with your fellow oppressed people. It doesn't matter what part of that's why you see South Africa. That's why you see Ireland leading these causes because they can inherently relate to the pain of the Palestinian people. When you have an opposition, this is like, you know, let's go back to 2020. Imagine if we had a subset of people coming to the BLM folks and saying, you know what, guys, you're not understanding this. You're making us afraid. You're making us afraid by calling out for your human and civil rights. Please just go home. Stop. You know, you had those people.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
And what do we,
We did.
you
That's
know,
what Jamaica's laughing.
that's what I'm saying. You have people like that, right? But oftentimes it, you know, they're the ones living in ignorance. They have the wool over their eyes and they refuse to see truth for what it is. And especially the most important thing is they can't relate because they haven't been in that situation. I'm Muslim. I was born Muslim. I was telling Jamaica last week, you know, being, you know, growing up post 9/11 America as a young man, you know, I obviously been in New York State for a large portion of my life. You know, I'm at a rest area, 13-year-old boy, right? I'm not wearing what I'm wearing now, right?
Mm.
Which I'm wearing now because I'm trying to represent, you know, intentionally. But when I was 13, I'm just a regular, you know, kid from Queens. Got it
Yeah.
fitted, got, you know, my hoodie, my Timberlands, and I'm at the rest area. I'm with my aunt. She happens to be wearing the hijab. I got a white guy, and I'm, you know, I have nothing against white people as a whole. I'm just giving you the facts. This is who said it to me. I've never heard it from any other class or race of people. I have a white gentleman behind me in this line, in a rest area between here and Buffalo, New York. Okay, I don't remember which one,
13 years old.
but this guy starts whispering, you know, things under his breath, you know, effing this, terrorist, that, this, that. And I just look back at him and I'm like, excuse me, sir. Mind you, I'm 13. He's probably, you know, he's a middle-aged white guy. You heard me. No, I didn't. So how many people did you blow up today?
Mm.
I'm 13 years old. I'm
Mm.
like, you know what? I'm not going to justify this with an actual response. What did I tell him? I said I lost count. because that's how ridiculous the statement is, that a 13-year-old boy lost count of how many people like,
Yeah.
what kind of stupidity is that? But
Yeah.
we live in a country with free speech, and me
Supposedly.
growing up here, being born here, I appreciate that because it allows me to say the things that I want to say, I need to say. Obviously, same thing for you guys.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have thick enough skin to hear what other people have to say. But when the majority of the American people say, you know what, we've heard both sides, we see the truth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That to me is the most beautiful thing, because that's part of that free will that God gave us, that you have the freedom to be a good person. Can I curse? Not curse.
I don't know. Have you
Or
heard
to
us?
be an a-hole,
Yeah.
you have the freedom. And when you choose to be a decent person in touch with humanity, trying to better humanity through yourself, your actions, your family, that's a beautiful thing. That means you've made the right decision, even though you could have made so many wrong decisions. That's the thing we're trying to communicate to these Zionist folks, that if you guys have the same understanding of morality as us, which is that killing innocent people is wrong, there's no reason, there's never any justification, especially children,
Yeah.
then you guys would be on the side of a ceasefire. There's no divisiveness in this. But y'all are saying that these kids need to die in order for you guys to have your second and third homes, which you stole
Yeah.
from Palestinian families, so you can have a nice vacation spot to go to. And I'm sorry, but that just doesn't sit well with me or with any person of conscience.
Yeah. When you told me that story, um, so many things went through my mind, including the parallels of every young person of color and what they've had to face, either directly, right, or
It's
indirectly.
even a look. You walk into a room,
Yes.
people look at you a certain way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, hold on, I didn't even
Um,
say nothing.
and then we come up to this moment where we are right now, where folks are saying we want to hear from both sides,
Mhm.
which bothers me immensely. And I I feel as if there is this misunderstanding that it's the Jewish community as a whole and those who are pro-Palestine, right?
Yeah.
Right? That people think those are the two sides. Those are not the two sides.
Definitely
There's
not.
not, because there is huge Jewish support calling for a ceasefire, Jewish support saying that there needs to be land given back to Palestinians, that like what Israel has been doing for a long time, they need to stop. It's not this Jewish community as a whole and then pro-Palestine. Within the Jewish community, there are Zionists and then there are anti-Zionists.
Yeah.
And Jewish Voice for Peace is a Jewish-led organization that has shut down New York City. I'm going to take us someplace else really quick. Shut down New York City recently so many times and so frequently and at massive levels at train stations, airports. They just disrupted Biden's fundraiser. That there is currently in New York State, I haven't had a chance to tell you, proposed legislation
I saw that.
calling for
Funny who it came from, though, right? 'Cause Schumer ain't doing it for him anymore.
Well, no. It came. The legislation says that anyone that blocks
He's a terrorist.
a road
Yeah.
is considered a domestic
terrorist.
terrorist.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I did see that.
So
I'm so happy
this
you
is
mentioned that,
where
though.
we are, right?
Yeah.
That's the Jewish community in New York City has shut it down so much that a anti-protest bill has made it to progressive New York. New York, the progressive state where everyone is free and has all of this, wonderful, we're on the left and those types of things. But here we are, and the woman who proposed it spoke, they've shut down the airport, they've shut down the bridges, we've got to stop this. Those people that shut down the bridges and shut down the airport, those were majority Jewish folks with a lot of accomplices.
Absolutely.
Standing with them. So if anyone's being anti-Semitic right now,
It's the Zionist.
trying to silence voices.
I just want to say, just on that legislation, I don't want you to go that's legislation isn't necessarily new. It was brought up from the conservative side of the aisle. during many of the marches around Eric Garner and the BLM movement, and now it's taken this next step, right, to being brought. Is it in committee or is it?
It's in committee.
It's in committee.
It's in committee, and folks don't think it's going to make it out of committee. It should have never been introduced.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they'll bring out something crazy like that and sneak something else past the system, that no one else pays attention to. But I'm glad you guys mentioned, the whole terrorism aspect, because actually there's a professor out of the University of Chicago. His name is Daryl Lee, and he actually just published a report the other day talking about how the United States defines terrorism within modern history, say from like the 1960s and 70s onwards. And increasingly so, you start to see kind of the dots being connected between pro-Palestinian support groups from the diaspora and terrorism laws being enacted to stop them. And then obviously post 9/11, they already had kind of a framework in place just to apply en masse and antagonize, harass, entrap people from all backgrounds. But, to your point, Jamaica, these guys, I mean, they have an agenda, and it's very clear, and they buy politicians. I hate to say it. If you have a politician of integrity, which there was a gentleman, I think he was in Georgia, he said they offered me $20 million to run against, I think it was Cory Bush.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I'm getting this mixed up, but $20 million he was offered and he rejected it. Yeah. They come out with money, and what they tell you as an elected official is, look, take our money, speak to our platform. Here's the playbook. Here are the few things that you can regurgitate to the public. Or if you don't take our money, understand we're still going to spend this money. It's just going to be in direct opposition to you. They're trying to get AOC out right now. They're trying to get Ilhan Omar out. They're trying to get Rashida Tlaib out. And they make no secret about it. I mean, the ADL had a whole conversation about TikTok, saying we have a TikTok problem. Now you see all of a sudden, I heard about TikTok like 3 years ago about, the US, China, back when Trump was in office.
And it's not even from China.
Let the racism come to light. But at the same time, it was initially taught, like, oh, this might be a spy software, this and that. That's what the original kind of angle was from the US side. Hadn't heard about it in the years since. It kind of died away because 170 million Americans are all about TikTok. Now, all of a sudden, during this genocide, which TikTok is one of the most important vehicles for delivering the truth to the masses around the world, you start to see it under pressure again. And it's no secret who's behind this kind of resurgence of trying to ban TikTok. Facebook is reporting people, white Americans, Black Americans, Muslim Americans, for their pro-Palestinian posts to the FBI.
Yeah.
Imagine how crazy that is. You make a post on your Facebook page. A lot of older people have Facebook, and older people, good luck trying to tell them not to share their opinions, right?
Yeah.
These people, they want to share their opinions with the world, and rightfully so, as is their First Amendment right. But then they have the FBI knocking on their door, which is, unheard of. So we
wish it was unheard of.
It's, I mean, you get what I'm saying. It's a figure of speech, but yeah.
No, I think that, I'm hearing more and more from, outspoken folks, either on their media platforms, on social media. Some politicians are speaking to it. Some are speaking to it. Is that, we're at a place today in 2024 where it's really like beyond I think the phrase is beyond the pale when it comes to what surveillance is like now in this country, right?
Yeah.
And how information,
thank the Patriot Act.
And how information is being like either not shared fully, not shared at all, and being really like, in a space where you don't know what to believe from your elected leaders. I don't know, when you look at what comes out of the mouth of any of these folks, you're just like, especially when you look at what's happening in Gaza right now, when you look at what's happening in the West Bank, which we don't talk about enough because they've arrested nearly 1,000 or more, way more than 1,000 people, killed hundreds of people, raiding neighborhoods on a daily basis.
And Hamas is not in the West Bank.
And the Hamas is not in the West Bank. And yet we're to believe that this isn't about just Palestinians and the Palestine.
It's not a genocide. It's
Palestine,
not a
right?
ethnic cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it is kind of scary. And it's like, where do you get your information from? And I think shutting down social media platforms is a part of controlling information,
Yeah.
right? Now, I'm not, be honest with you, so TikTok and all that, they have their problems with like children being, inundated with all kinds of nonsense, but it is also a platform of information. And if you take that one away and you limit what people can see, then what are we doing but controlling information for folks? And I think that's as scary as anything else.
And we worry about the world that we could be going into, especially as the United States talks about our freedoms, our liberties, and how we're a shining star, and that we get to tell other countries how they should exist.
Import democracy.
We are the ones. Before we wrap up, because I know we're running really short on time, I do want us to just take a couple seconds and talk about all of these horrible things are happening, but change is possible, right? Right.
Absolutely.
So how does that happen? I did drop in the chat for folks to know. You can join all of us email list at Building More in 2024, because we're about building, not destroying. How can we work collectively together? So if you're watching either on Facebook or on YouTube, you can click on that link and join us and get these types of information pieces direct to you, not just finding it by accident.
Yeah. And I think, to that point, when we come together, and especially like if you saw the city hall meeting on Monday night, which I think it's on YouTube now,
Yep.
you'll see pro-Palestinian voices, pro-ceasefire voices from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And that's because you have a bunch of human beings who have no self-serving interest, no underlying motive other than just promoting the truth. And to Sean's point, we're living in a weird time where truth has become subjective instead of objective. It used to be human beings could look at the same thing and agree that I'm looking at the same thing. Nowadays, it doesn't work like that. You ask somebody what color the sun is, they might tell you it's green. And they're sticking to their guns, and it just doesn't make sense. The rest of us say, no, it don't look green to us. But when we do have that kind of fabric of humanity kind of come together in promotion of the truth, that speaks volumes, and that just shows the powers that be that whatever you guys want to promote or spew or espouse, as vile as it may be, you cannot tell us how to think. And I think that's the most critical thing, right? The programming and the indoctrination. People love to talk about this, especially me being a Muslim. They said, they make all sorts of weird, wild accusations. But what I've seen very clearly, especially if you were there Monday night, only one side looked indoctrinated. All the same looking people saying the same 5-6 lines, obsession with Hamas. Whereas you had on the other side, the pro-Palestinian side, you had, and you do have, and Jamaica was at a dinner that we had about 2 weeks ago. You have trans folks, you have LGBTQ folks, you got African-American folks, you got Jewish folks, you got Muslim folks, you got Christian folks, you got atheist folks. You have literally everyone who's anyone with a conscience saying, stop the genocide. Yeah. And I think this movement is powerful enough to kind of unite us in that pursuit for promoting the truth.
Final thoughts, Sean?
I mean, I just, listening to what this brother has to say, I think, he said it, this is a coalition of peace-loving people seeking justice. I think that the impact of what has happened, what is happening currently in Palestine is felt globally. It's felt right here in our communities. And I think that these discussions need to happen, and we need to continue to find ways and strategies to push on our legislatures to come out more voicefully to get a ceasefire in Gaza. And also, let's not stop there, right? Let's keep this thing going, because there's a lot of injustices happening across our community, across our state, and like these coalitions. And this effort can also be useful in other efforts that are absolutely.
We could use $3 billion a year here in the States.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
And it's
exactly.
The city says that it is proud of its diversity, its richness of its cultures that exist inside this city. If that is true, then and if we stand for democracy and justice, then I think it's an important message, and we talked about this on Monday, to tell everyone in the city of Schenectady as well as beyond that Schenectady stands for peace and justice. It denounces murders and genocide or just murders, period. And that every person in this community is valuable, and that we won't take a side that says we can't talk about injustice. And that applies for every member of the community and that are not represented on Monday, but are represented in this city. So I am so glad that you were able to be here this
Thank
morning.
you guys for having me.
On this special day. Doesn't somebody have a birthday today?
It's my daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Hannah. She's 6 years old today.
Yes, yes.
Happy birthday, Anna.
So thanks for letting him out of the house. And we will be back next Monday for the next Focus Friday. I hope that everyone has a great day. And to those of us that are fasting, I'm looking forward to breaking my fast later because I got a bunch of food.
You can't be hungry already. Come on.
I don't know who you're talking to.
Come on.
Mizan Kitchen, Niskuna. I'm
Yeah.
saying the name wrong, possibly, but listen, you see my personal page. I put the photos up. It's yummy. We support local, and I'm looking forward to coming back next Friday, continuing this conversation and the work that we'll continue to do together.
Let's make sure we do this again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
let's make
for
sure
sure.
we have these conversations. Peace, y'all.
Absolutely.
Take
Everyone
care.